Although this year's fires in the Amazon have been particularly devastating, deforestation is nothing new. This problem has been with us for decades. But don't blame Brazil. And don't blame Bolsonaro. This is your responsibility too. The question is, how much do you care? Welcome to Development Unspun. We all notionally care about millions of things. At least we say we do. Generally, quite a good test for whether people really care about something is to look at their actions rather than their words. What economists would call revealed rather than stated preferences. And particularly where they spend their money. What my granddad would have called, put your money where your mouth is. There's a very simple reason why people burn down trees. Money. You can make more money from land where trees have been removed. From beef, from mining, from mega plantations of bananas or palm oil or coca. Now you might say, this is terrible. This is about big business putting money and profit before our global natural heritage and marginalised communities. And you'd be partly right. There are elite interests and already very wealthy people at play here, making money off public goods with little regard for poorer communities and climate chaos. And some of those people are very nasty. Take a look at last month's video on defending the defenders for more on that. Or you could blame the Brazilian president, Jair Bolsonaro. And again, you'd be partly right. His gang of lying and self-serving cronies have no regard for the poor or for their natural heritage and kind of hark back or hark forward to basically a playground for the rich. But it's all too easy to blame people far away for these disasters. As the G7 discuss how best to punish Brazil and Bolsonaro, they would do well to remember that Brazil is still a relatively poor country, $9,000 income per capita, compared to about 47,000 in the case of Germany, over 60,000 in the case of the US. And it's not just Brazil where forests are under threat. Bolivia is far poorer. Colombia, where I live, Ecuador, Peru, criticizing poorer countries for using their natural resources to make money, especially when your countries have been doing it for centuries and your major companies are still doing it, is not a good look. And it's quite foolish. It's no good complaining, it's no good grandstanding and moaning. We need action. But action is harder than words and more expensive. There's a place called Yasuni. It's a national park in Ecuador, and there's a lot of oil there. Hundreds of millions of barrels. Over a decade ago, in 2007, Rafael Correa, the new and idealistic president of Ecuador, proposed a win-win scheme to the international community to safeguard this unique ecosystem. Give Ecuador half of what it would expect to make in revenue from the oil it would sell, and Ecuador would keep the oil underground in perpetuity. For good. No roads, no drilling, no deforestation, no pollution, but it would cost you $3.5 billion. Ecuador, a poor country, $6,000 income per capita, was prepared to forego a huge amount of revenue to play its part to safeguard its national and our global heritage, money that it could have used to build schools, to build roads, to improve the health system, to pay off foreign debts, but it needed the rest of the world to step in as well. The rest of the world, which says it cares so much about safeguarding the Amazon rainforest. How much did it really care? 5 years later, just $330 million had been pledged, and only about 20 million had been delivered. Correa called it for what it was: hypocrisy. The world has failed us, he said. And he opened up the Yasuni for oil mining. You can't expect the people and governments of poorer countries to watch how the rich world live on YouTube, on Facebook, and then to forego the possibility of making money to improve their own living standards by exploiting natural resources. This natural heritage on which our world depends has to be bought with hard cash. If rich countries don't want poorer countries to make quick bucks by exploiting natural resources in an unsustainable way, they're going to have to pay for it. And that means we're going to have to pay for it. Of course, we have to reduce our reliance on all the things that make deforested land so profitable. We need to change our consumption habits. But in the meantime, we need to start buying up the forest. This is already happening, of course, both privately by NGOs, and there are some international public schemes to do this, but far too little. The $20 million that I understand the G7 has pledged to help the fires currently going on in the Amazon is a tiny amount of money. It's not serious. Far more is needed. We're talking billions of dollars. If you want the Amazon rainforest to be here when your kids grow up, you're going to have to pay for it, and quickly. Shouting at Brazil to put out the fire in the Amazon is like living in a shared house and seeing a fire in a sharer's room and saying, put that fire out, it's your responsibility. It may be their room, but it's your house. For my children and their generation, home is planet Earth. These borders humans have marked on maps for so long are meaningless. Radical internationalism, the opposite of the nationalism we see today, is the only sustainable and realistic future. That doesn't mean losing our sense of place, of communities. It means putting all that in perspective and caring also about places far away. Because ultimately, nowhere's very far away anymore. Yes, we need to pressure the Brazilian government to do better. There are nefarious forces at work. It's an unsustainable economic route, and we need to change it. And yes, we need to change our own habits of consumption. But rather than just gather outside Brazilian embassies worldwide, the global public needs to persuade their own governments to put money where their mouths are. We need to make it more profitable to maintain the rainforest than to clear it. Until that happens, this tragedy won't end.